Hey, it's Mike with Great Rock Real Estate again. This is the last video in a series of how to value commercial real estate. And in this one, we are going to analyze two deals. Hopefully you've been following along and you've watched the other 5 videos that explain a lot of the terms that I'm going to be using in this one, so everything will make sense. If not, go back and watch them. They're all under 5 minutes, I believe, some of them 4 minutes, so an easy watch. I'm really a numbers person, and hopefully you are too, because it's one of the most important things in evaluating a property. You need to know your numbers. You need to know whether you've got a dud or hopefully a bell ringer. But you need to know, and you need to forecast out into the future. You need to be able to pick through all of the information that you've got from the broker or the seller to see what you believe is real and what is not real, and what the property needs, and where you're going to be financially going forward. Can't just do it on a whim. Before we get to my spreadsheet and analyze a deal, I need to issue a warning. Numbers are boring. I don't know how to make them sexy. There's no good looking people. There's no hot sports cars or anything. They're boring for most people anyway. But if you want to succeed in this business, you better know your numbers. So let's get to it. So the deal number one is, hopefully you can see my mouse. I'll move it around so it's visually easier to see, I guess. Just a property name. We're just calling it Oklahoma to protect the innocent. Asking price is $950,000, 27 doors, 19 of them 1 bed, 1 bath, and 8 of them 2 bed, 2 baths. Now these are the numbers that they gave us from 2016, and the gross scheduled income $163,000, 5% credit loss and vacancy, so total revenue of $155,000. And these are the expenses, and I'm not too quick to believe them. There's more to it than that. As an example, they have basically nothing in for unit turns because their total maintenance and repairs is $10,300, which divided by the 27 units is only $381 a unit. That seems kind of light, especially if they're turning some. And we actually went and had a look at this property in Oklahoma. We spent about a week there, and they were in fact turning units. So I know that that number is not correct. But we're going to analyze it the way they gave it to us, and then I'll go in and make some adjustments real quick to where I think it probably is, and then we'll have a look there. Also, 30% total expenses, 30%, and then down here is management fee at 9%. Hopefully you can see that. This spreadsheet separates it out, so we have a total operating expenses, if you include management fee, of 39%. That's pretty good. It should be anywhere from 30 to a maximum of 50%. 50%, you've got a problem. It's probably a value add. For some reason, they're spending too much in expenses. That could be a temporary spike. They had, I don't know, some kind of a water leak and the major repair, something like that. But anyway, so this one coming in at 39%, given the age of the building, that probably is a little low. It should probably be a little over 40%, but nevertheless. So we have a net operating income based on their expenses of $108,996. And management, and then I don't have anything in reserve for replacement. So the adjusted NOI is $94,981. And debt service, I'll show you that in a second. I'll show you some other features of this spreadsheet. The debt service, where are we? Debt service of $52,648, which gives you the debt service coverage ratio. This, in this case, it happens to be a 1.8, which is pretty nice. But the debt service coverage ratio, we haven't talked about too much. I briefly touched on it in the video where I bring all the other 5 short videos together. But it is simply the NOI expressed as a percentage of the annual debt service. And in this case, it's a 1.8. So the NOI is 1.8 times the annual debt service. So that should keep you out of trouble. During the sketchy days, banks would lend on a 1.2, and that to me is that's dangerous. You don't have any wiggle room. Just to make that super simple, a 1.2 would be if you have a debt service of $1,000 a month, and you had $1,200 a month coming in rent. Basically, you're breaking even. It's too close for comfort. Anyway, so 1.8 is great. Cash flow pre-tax is $42,333. The original investment of $199,500, and I believe that is all just down payment. So a cash-on-cash return of 21.2%. That's pretty sweet. So a little bit about this spreadsheet. First of all, this is generally where we start, and we start entering numbers in like the sale price, and then we can play with these, our loan-to-value amounts, and they will calculate. And so it is 199.5 was our initial, ended up 21% down. And so with the net operating income, which is what we got from over here of 94,981, we're plugging that in back here, and that'll give us the cap rate at the asking price, which is a 10 cap, which is good. That's great. Great 10 cap. Right now, Denver 2018, spring of 2018, we are seeing 5 cap, sometime below 5 cap. And again, if you watch the videos, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about there. So 10 cap is pretty darn good. And the first year, cash on cash, we already talked about that, 21. It's just a little redundant here, 21.22. But it's actually a sanity check to make sure that you've got everything. Yep, 21.2. Make sure that you've got everything entered correctly into both tabs in the spreadsheet. So where we get the annual debt service is pretty simple. Plugging in your interest rate, we already know the amount of the loan. So plug in an interest rate. I plugged in 5%. That might be a little bit low. Again, we are almost spring of 2018. And amortize over how many months? This, I believe, is 25 months. So we are getting a annual debt service of the 52,648. You take that number, and that's where you're going to bring it over, 52,648, into the annual debt service. So this will help you figure that out. And then the final part of this that I really like is if you're looking for a 15% return on investment, and your investment is $199,500. Now that doesn't take into account any capital expenditures that you may have to put into the property right away. So that's a little bit of a shortcoming, but not much. So anyway, if you're looking for a 15% return on investment, and you can change that number to whatever you want, what you can pay for the property, the maximum price that you can pay for the property, is you can buy it at an 8.69 cap rate, so a little bit lower of a cap rate, and pay a maximum of $1,092,751. So you can work it that way, which is kind of cool, that you can throw in a minimum return on investment, that obviously being your investment, and then it'll tell you the maximum that you can pay for that property. But again, that does not take into account any capital improvements, because you may need to turn some units. You may need to put $50,000 into this property right off the bat. So that does not take that into consideration. Okay, now we're back to the operating projection tab, and in the meantime, I took the liberty of plugging in some expenses that I feel are real in order to shape this up to be a more accurate picture, because as I said before, I don't think they were giving us all the expenses. So the first thing that I did is I added in professional services of $400, so at least we can get the income tax done. I also added in the trash, small dumpster, $960 a year. Landscape as well, somebody to run around and pick up the trash and perhaps mow, and $6,000 in unit turns. At the vacancy of 5%, we're going to turn at least a couple of units, so about $3,000 a unit should be pretty good. So you can see what that does to our total operating expenses, and then plus the management fee. I think that before we were, I want to say around a 39%. I think is what it was, 39% total expenses to income, and now we are at what, 44. So a lot more in line with what it probably should be. About 44% your total operating expenses to your income. And adjusted NOI obviously is being reflected there. Annual debt service hasn't changed. Brought our debt service coverage ratio down to a 1.65. Still respectable. I really don't like to go much below that. As I said before, banks were lending on a 1.2, but that's too dangerous for me. Our pre-tax cash flow has gone down some to 34,473, and our cash on cash return down to still a very respectable 17.3. What I've also done is projected out a couple of years pro forma. Increased rents, so we've gone from 163 to 180,000. And other than that, the only thing that we've done with all of our expenses is escalated them 3% to account for inflation, basically. We did decrease our management fee from 9 to 8% because it should be a smoother running property at this point. So we can probably cut back on what we're paying somebody because they're doing a little bit less work. You can see that our adjusted NOI has gone up nicely, mostly because of that rent increase, and annual debt service hasn't changed. The debt service coverage ratio went from a 1.65 to a very respectable 1.89. And our pre-tax cash flow gone from 34,000 to 47,000, and a super respectable 23% return. Again, we raised rents the next year, 2019, 3%, added to all of the projected expenses. So the actual percentages haven't really changed. That's still 33%. We're still at 8% management. So the percentage of expenses to our income hasn't changed over these 2 years. But our NOI has definitely gone up. Debt service still the same. Now we're at a super respectable 1.95 debt coverage ratio. We could almost cut our rents in half and still survive. Almost, not quite. So we could be extremely competitive if we had a strong market downturn. Cash flow pre-tax, we're up to $50,051 a year, and the cash on cash return is up even more at 25.1. Well, you made it. Congratulations. I know numbers can be boring, but you got to know them in order to succeed in this business. And if you do succeed in this business and work hard at it, this is what you can expect in your future. So let's move on to this fourplex that we're going to analyze. Blaze through it quite a bit faster because we've already seen the spreadsheet and are familiar with it, so it won't take nearly as long. This is a fourplex, and this is in Colorado, and it is asking price is $425, and there's 4 doors, obviously, fourplex, and they're all 2-bed, 1 bath. And we first of all start out over at our cap calculator. So into our sales price of $425. And we're going to do a 75% loan to value. So 25% down equates to $106,250, and 4.5%, probably because we're going to do this with some kind of a Fannie Mae loan, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but nevertheless a residential loan because it is only 4 doors, so we do get preferred. So therefore we're also going with a 30-year amortization. So our debt service is $19,380. And if we have a net operating income of $35,400 that we plugged in from over here, and let's see, yep, 35,400, yep, based on their numbers. I believe their numbers. We have met with this seller a couple of times and toured the property, and et cetera, and we saw some receipts. Second time we met, he actually brought receipts to show us, number one, the water, and because that's always a big one, because this is single tap and 4 users of it. And then the taxes we looked up, the maintenance and repairs, he gave us a solid guesstimate on that. And insurance, we know, is in fact true. And trash, he showed us a trash bill. So he showed us a trash bill and a water bill. And landscaping, I threw that in myself. So anyway, point is that we have an NOI of $35,400. Notice I have no management fee in here. In all likelihood, with these fourplexes, you're probably going to manage them yourself. You may not, depending. But we take our $35,400, bring it over into this tab, $35,400. So the indicated cap at asking is an 8.3 cap, which still is pretty good, especially for kind of sort of in this area. It's actually Colorado Springs is where it is, and the Springs, the prices are a little lower and their rents are on the increase. So right now it's a pretty nice market. Good town as well. I like it. So cash on cash is 15%, 15.08%. And if you wanted a 15% return on investment, well, guess what? It kind of equals out. You would be looking at paying a maximum of $425,984. So technically you could come up another $984 and still meet your return on investment requirement. So again, going back over to the operating projection, his rents, they are actuals as well from him. So we have 43,920, 0% vacancy, and some would say, oh my gosh, you have to put something in there. No, not in this market. A fourplex in this market, you're not going to have any vacancy, and we have proven that year over year over year in stuff that we manage and our rentals, our personal rentals. We don't have any vacancy unless we want it. We're able to go from one tenant to the next tenant with only about 2 days in between, just to get some professional cleaning done and maybe a little bit of handyman. But otherwise, there's no gap. And quite often, somebody's paying for those couple days anyway, those couple of days of rent. So, $1,600 in insurance, $2,000 in maintenance and repairs. That's $500 a unit. That's a lot. $500 a unit with this fourplex and the condition that it's in. That seems a little high to me, but we're going to go with it. And then nothing in miscellaneous office supplies, professional services. Well, again, we probably should have at least put in the income tax return, but I'm pretty sure we could take that out of the $2,000 in maintenance and repairs. Property taxes at $1,600, pretty reasonable. Snow removal, I don't know. It's not a lot. There's the way that this is set up. There's not a lot to do, and the tenants are responsible for their own shoveling. So probably nothing for snow removal is okay. Utilities, electric. There is no exterior site lighting, except, well, there is, but it's paid for by the city. And there's the trash, the water, and landscape. I actually threw that $500 in for landscape. He was cutting the grass himself, but I figured I'd throw in $500 for that. So total operating expenses 19%. You'd say, oh my gosh, that's low. Well, these are in good shape, and we're not, as I said, we're not paying any management fees, so we are at 20%. And you will find it considerably lower, the total operating expenses considerably lower the smaller the property goes. Even down to single family, because in the single family market, single family residential, the tenants are typically taking care of most things. Now obviously if a furnace goes out, that's different, but they're paying the water and the sewer, they're paying their own trash. Obviously you are paying taxes, but in a case like this, taxes would actually be rolled into the mortgage in all likelihood if you have a Fannie Mae mortgage. But anyway, so point is, operating expenses are definitely going to be lower. So we have a net operating income of $35,400, and again, nothing for reserves. With the 27 unit, that makes me a little more nervous. Nothing for reserves, but not so much on a fourplex. If a stove goes out or something, it's really not that big of a deal. So our adjusted NOI is still the same. Annual debt service of $19,380. Debt coverage ratio is a 1.83. That's a bell ringer. And then we have pre-tax cash flow. And in this spreadsheet, I actually broke it down by the month. So your debt service is $1,600 a month, and your cash flow pre-tax is $1,335 a month. So you'd need a few of these, but a few of these to make any money, but that's okay. So a 16% cash on cash return, and let's see if that adds up. Nope, we've got something that's off because this is a 15.08. So first thing we have to check is our 106,250 down, and yep, that's where it is. Original investment is 106,250. That happens. You start playing with numbers a lot, and you forget to change something somewhere. So now we're at 15.1 and we're at 15.08, so they match. There's rounding going on there, simple as that. So a 15% cash on cash return, still pretty darn good. Like I said, you probably count a couple of these, or maybe just one to start, an extra $1,300 a month, and just put that straight into savings, save up for a bigger one. So would you buy this one? Now let's look at the numbers going forward. 2018, we're bringing the rents up to where they should be because they're actually below market right now. And you can see that there's a significant difference. The expenses, again, we didn't do anything except for the same 3%. And if you look at, we went down, look at the total operating expense percentage, we went down 1%. And again, nothing in there for management fee. But our NOI went from 35 to 39, debt service the same, and the debt service coverage ratio is a 2.02. So you could technically cut your rents in half if you had to in order to compete, and you would still be looking pretty sweet. So the cash flow pre-tax is $1,653 a month, 18% cash on cash return, and you'll notice I put $10,000 in the second year, and that is not coming out of the income. That's actually straight out of your pocket, and that was to renovate probably all 4 units, $2,500 per unit, and that's why we're getting the extra rent. And $2,500, basically we're just planning on doing some countertops and also some bathroom countertops and vanities, etc. Not a whole lot, $2,500 a unit. And go to 2019, rents going up again, basically following inflation, and just come down to the bottom. And our debt coverage is 2.07, so up slightly. And the cash flow pre-tax is now $1,731 a month. So we've gone from $1,335 to $1,731 a month, and now we have $110 total investment. So we're cash on cash at 18.9. So let me ask again, would you buy this one?
Well, you made it. I'm very impressed. That's awesome that you're able to sit through roughly 20 minutes of analyzing a deal, because I know it is kind of boring, but it is very important. It's super important that you know your numbers. And if you don't do the numbers because maybe you're not good with numbers, that's okay. You just need to basically understand them and have someone else analyze them for you. Some of the best people that I know for analyzing them are accountants and also engineers. Engineers are always big numbers people. So put somebody like that on your team to analyze the numbers if you're not real good at it, or if you really don't like to do it. And that's fine. Maybe you're really good at doing something else. So, but just to go over, hopefully you can see this okay. Cap rate, where I like to see cap rate, is I like to see a minimum cap rate of about 8% up to about 10%. 8 to 10%. I might go a little bit lower for a really nice stabilized property. And if you go higher than 10%, that's okay too. But generally what you're going to find is a property that needs some work. It's probably going to be behind in deferred maintenance, and it's going to need some work. And there's a reason why the cap rate is so high. They've got great income, and the reason is because they don't have a whole lot going out in expenses. Debt coverage ratio, anything below 1.6 makes me nervous. Like I said earlier, banks used to lend on a 1.2, and that ended in disaster. So 1.6, and then of course the higher you go, the better. A few years into it, hopefully you are at about a 1.8, maybe even a 2.0. It kind of depends on the property. But below 1.6 makes me a little nervous. Again, unless it's a very large, very stabilized property, then you can go below 1.6, maybe 1.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. Cash on cash return, my rule is simple: double digit or it's a no-go. So minimum is 10%. Cash on cash return less than 10%, I won't do it, because you can make maybe not 10% in the stock market, but close to it, and you don't have tenants and toilets. So if you're going to have tenants and toilets, even if you're paying someone else to manage it for you, you still need a higher rate of return. You've earned it, you deserve it. So those are kind of my rules and what I consider to be within parameters when I'm looking at a property and doing the due diligence and analyzing it. Everybody is a little bit different. They may go for less cap rates. As I said, in Denver right now, they sure are 5% cap rates. Why? Well, maybe they have an income tax problem. That would be a wonderful reason to go for a lower cap rate as long as it's a well-stabilized property. This is what works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone. Well, I hope you learned lots, because this is the last in the series of 5 videos on how to value commercial real estate. And if you're not sure on any of the fundamentals, just go back and watch the individual videos. They're all pretty short, 4 or 5 minutes long, easy to do. Make sure you have a firm grasp on all of them, because it is very important. If you need any help analyzing the deal, don't be shy. Let me know. Comments below, contact me directly, mike@greatrock1.com. I'd be glad to help you out. We can either analyze it over the phone or Skype or even in person. If you want me to walk a property with you, I'd be more than happy to do that. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.